Hello, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning, it's Steven.
I'm George.
Hi, Delina.
Hi, I'm the cat.
Oh, I see.
When did you get a cat, Christopher?
My dad bought it yesterday.
What?
Cute.
The boy, his name is Tom.
Tom,
Tommy.
like Tom and Jerry.
Open chair.
Huh? Up in bed. She likes to go under the couches. So he first wanted to be in the bathroom. And then he he moved here. So my mom put him here.
Oh.
He wants to know on.
Is it a kitten?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. No, he doesn't. He does. No, he doesn't. Yes, he does.
All right. I'm gonna wait just one more minute, then we're gonna get started for today. Today's lesson, before I get started, we are going to be looking at our realistic fiction today. Okay. So we're going to be focusing on, we're not going to read the whole realistic fiction, but we are going to be focusing on checking for understanding. What does that mean? When we check for understanding, basically, we are practicing the skill of reading a story and understanding what is happening in the story. Okay? That is what we are working on today. So we're going to be focusing on the characters and the events that are happening within our realistic fiction. Okay? So if you want to take notes while we're doing our lesson, you are more than welcome to take notes. Remember, during the lesson, if you have a question for me, you can click the raise hand button. If you would like to answer a question or ask a question, you can also use our chat box. If you want to say something verbally, know that you are able to do that. Just make sure you use your raise hand button, okay? But while we're in the middle of the lesson, the chat box should only be used for lesson purposes, not for side conversations, okay? Do I have any questions so far in regards to what you were supposed to be working on this week?
No.
Anything, any questions on the lessons that we were supposed to work on this week? Okay. Also, during the lesson, I need everybody's video camera on. This is so that I can make sure that you're in a position to where you can stay focused. So make sure that you have your videos on. So as Steven, Lady, Jaylene, Stephanie. Thank you very much. All right, so we're gonna go straight into our lesson for today. Remember, we are focusing still on realistic fiction, and we're gonna start with our first read with From Mama's Window, okay? This is a realistic fiction. And a quick background about this realistic fiction, we are gonna be focusing on the character Sugar. Sugar is a little boy who lives with his uncle, and they live in a swamp area, okay? So we're gonna be seeing how Sugar interacts with his uncle, We're going to see how he interacts with things that are happening within the story. We're going to be focusing on what is actually taking place in this story, okay? But one thing that I want you to pay close attention to as we're reading the story are Sugar's behavior, okay? I want you to pay close attention to how he's behaving, how he's expressing his feelings, some of the things that he's saying, and how he's interacting with his uncle who he lives with. Now, there's a reason why Sugar lives with his uncle. So as we're reading, I want you to try to figure out, why does Sugar live with his uncle? Why is he not living with his mom or his dad, or what's going on? What is his backstory, okay? So those are some of the couple of things I want you to focus on when we're reading, all right? Mercedes, make sure there's nothing on that TV. Thank you. All right. I'm going to share my screen with you guys at this time. Make sure you are on mute at this time so that everybody can hear what I'm saying and what's going on. Okay, so I see some of you guys already read ahead, which is awesome. But for this particular lesson, I want you guys to pay really close attention to what's happening and Sugar's behavior and how he interacts with his uncle. All right. So today in our realistic fiction, we are only going to be reading part of the story. And after we have completed reading this part of the story, there are questions that I have for you guys to answer. And I'm going to show you where you're going to answer those questions. If at any time you want to answer while we're reading, or if you would like to read, I'm definitely going to be calling on people to read. So make sure that as we're reading, you're paying attention so you'll know where we are in the story, okay? So today we're going to stop at paragraph 35. So we're going to read 1 through 35. After we've completed that, I'm going to ask you guys some questions. And I'm also going to show you again where you can find. Good, so y'all already know the answer. I see that in the chat box. So I'm going to be, and you're going to show you where to find those questions in Pearson today, all right? So the title of this story is From Mama's Window, and we know this to be a realistic fiction. How do we know that when we're reading a realistic fiction, it is actually considered that? How do we know that it's considered a realistic fiction when we're reading a story? What are some things you will see in the story to help you understand or help you figure out that you're reading a realistic fiction?
Okay.
How do you know when you're reading a story, you're reading realistic fiction?
It tells about things that don't happen in real life.
Okay, close. So we know that when we're reading a realistic fiction, it is fiction, meaning it hasn't happened in real life, right? So we know it hasn't happened in real life,
It might happen in
but
real life. That might happen
what
in
is
real
the realistic part? There's something special about that.
It might happen in real life.
Yaretsi? Shema? Edgar? How do you know that when you're reading a realistic, how do you know when you're reading a story, it's realistic fiction? We know fiction means fake, but what's the realistic part? Stephanie?
That it might happen in real life.
Yes, that it could happen in real life. Very good. So as we're reading a story, if there are things that are happening in that story that could happen in real life, we know that it is a realistic fiction. As we're reading this story, I want you to pay attention to what is happening in this story to help you understand that you are reading a realistic fiction. Okay, that is our goal today. At this time, go ahead and put your videos on mute. So Edgar, I need you to go on mute. Shema, I need you to go on mute. And Jefferson, I need you to go on mute. All right. Thank you very much. So we're gonna begin. Says, furious at the church folks and mad at his uncle, Sugar stood on the dock and watched Uncle Free pole out of the swamp into the bayou. Then Sugar stormed back inside. He plopped down on his cot and began picking at the frayed fish net. After a few minutes, Sugar got up and looked inside the box of clothes. Clothes just like Mama would have bought for Christmas or Easter, he thought. Tears filled his eyes. With a sudden sweep of his arm, Sugar flung the box on the floor. Shirt, pants, shoes, socks, and underwear went flying. He collapsed onto his cot and wept. What does that mean? He collapsed. What is onto his cot and wept? What does that mean when you collapse onto your cot? What did he do there?
It's a figurative language.
Close, Jonathan, but what does that actually mean? Did he just go and sit on the cot, or did he kind of toss his body onto the cot?
He tossed his body onto the cot.
Good. So when he did that, he started, it says he wept. What does wept mean?
Another word of crying.
Absolutely right. So here we have Sugar. He throws his clothes on the floor and then he collapsed onto the cot and he wept. What part in paragraph 2 help you figure out that wept means crying? Look at paragraph 2. What is some evidence to help you figure out that wept means crying?
Tears filled his eyes.
Yes, right here. Good job. Tears filled his eyes. So that's a clue to tell us that Sugar is getting ready to cry. Good job. It says, you acting like a baby, Sugar said to himself as his sobbing subsided. Just feeling sorry for yourself. He picked up the clothes and from the floor and laid them out on the cot. Then he walked over to the old lead sink, took off his overalls, and began pumping icy spring water over his head. Look at this first sentence right here. What does subsided mean? It says, you acting like a baby, Sugar said to himself as his sobbing subsided. What did we learn subsided meant?
Stop.
Good job, yes. So his sobbing stopped, which means he stopped crying. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Okay. So then he goes on to say, woo, Sugar said, shivering. He scrubbed his hair, face, ears, neck, and arms with Uncle Free's lye soap. He rubbed himself dry in a hurry to get warm. So was the water cold or hot?
Cold.
It was cold. Good job. Quickly, Sugar put on his new underwear, shirt, and pants. He glanced in the mirror as he brushed his hair. Uncle Free had insisted on trimming Sugar's hair a few days ago. "Why you gotta mess with my hair?" Sugar had complained. "Nobody care how long it gets." "I care," Uncle Free had said. "So that's why Uncle Free wanted to cut my hair," Sugar said. "So it looked nice for the dedication." What did we learn dedication meant? What is a dedication? It's a type of what?
Sarah,
Good.
A church.
It's a type of ceremony. If I click here, it tells me an official ceremony for something created for a special purpose. So they're getting ready to go to this dedication, and Uncle Free wants to cut Sugar's hair. Why does Uncle Free want to cut Sugar's hair for this dedication? What's the purpose? Lady?
so that he looks nice for the ceremony.
Okay, yes. He wants to cut his hair because he wants him to look nice for this particular ceremony or this dedication that they're getting ready to go to. Very good. Look at this picture though. Who can describe for me, what do you see in this picture? Where are they? Let's talk about the setting in the picture.
He's on a pond. No, I mean, he's in a little house. Forest.
Okay, there's a little house. He stays in this small home on a body of water. What do we call this body of water?
Pond.
Not exactly
bayou?
a pond. Bayou.
Lake.
A bayou, yes. So when you're living in a bayou, the body of water that is in a bayou is known as a swamp. Okay? So it's kind of like a lake, or but because of its location, we call that a swamp. So when there's a body of water in the bayou, it's known as a swamp. Now,
rainforest.
who is not quite? It's similar. But a swamp typically has alligators and turtles and fish. If you notice, there are trees that grow inside of the body of water. Okay. You'll typically see swamps in parts of Florida. You'll also see swamps in parts of Louisiana. Okay. So in those particular states, they have bodies of water known as swamps, which are on the bayous, okay? Now, pay attention to this picture. We all know that the character in this picture is who?
Sugar.
Yes, so that's Sugar. And what is Sugar doing in the picture?
Going to a boat.
Living in the boat.
He is getting ready to go onto his boat. Good. So let's continue reading. It says, Sugar grabbed his new shoes, stuffing the socks into the toes as he ran out the door. He placed the shoes in the bow of his boat, where they wouldn't get wet. Swiftly, he untied the boat from the dock and climbed into the stern. He shoved off with his pole, careful not to splash water on his new clothes. Sugar wasn't sure why he was all dressed up, hurrying toward Cypress Grove. He didn't want to go to the dedication of the new Sweet Kingdom Church. Conflicting emotions bubbled up inside him. Nevertheless, he pulled forward quickly and smoothly. So where's Sugar headed right now?
The dedication.
He is headed to the church, to the dedication, yes. And he has his nice new clothes on. He has his new shoes. So when you're going to a dedication or a ceremony, it's a very special occasion. And a lot of people dress up for an occasion like that. Okay. Good job, Caduce. Nice job. Okay. I'm looking at the chat box as we're reading through, so if you want to answer through there, you can do that as well. Okay. It says, as he approached Cypress Grove, Sugar could see the new brick church nestled among the trees. Maybe Uncle Free be right, thinking Mama might agree with the trustee committee, Sugar thought. Rounding the bend, Sugar saw the crowd gathered near the shoreline of Sun Lake. They were getting ready to parade up the path into the church for the sermon and singing part of the ceremony. Nobody seemed to notice Sugar enter the cove and slip under the weeping willow branches. He pulled alongside Uncle Free's boat and rolled up his pant legs so they wouldn't get wet when he stepped onto the shallow water. He pulled the bow of his boat onto the grass, adjusted his clothes, and put on his new socks and shoes. All right, so look at this image right here. In that paragraph, in paragraphs 12 and 13, they're describing what is happening in this image. Why do you think the author includes this picture in the story? What is the author trying to help us do by including this picture? Say that again.
Destroy the church.
Okay, the author wants us to see a visual of what is being said. So notice they are entering into the church. Everybody has on their nice clothes. But then if you look over here, we have who?
Sugar.
Sugar.
Mercedes, who do we have over here?
Sugar.
I don't know.
Yeah, I wonder why. I can see you, ma'am. All right, so this is a picture of Sugar. And Sugar is here under the willow tree. Why is he reluctant, or why do you think he doesn't want to be a part of this dedication? I want you to think about that question as I continue reading, okay? Don't answer yet, but I want you to try to think, why is Sugar so reluctant about being a part of this ceremony? Why does he not want to be a part of the ceremony, okay? About that. So it says, Sugar watched the procession of folks in their Sunday best from behind the canopy of willow fronds. At least I'd be dressed like Mama would have wanted if I was going to the dedication, he thought. Which I ain't. Pastor Williams led the way, followed by the choir, dressed in their flowing scarlet robes, singing, walking up the King's Highway. Mama's favorite hymn, thought Sugar. All right. Then it says, then came the church members singing along with the choir. Girls in starched, ruffled frocks, white socks, and Sunday shoes, and boys in pressed pants and shirts and freshly shined shoes marched proudly with their parents. Bringing up the rear was Mr. Pearson and the trustee board members, followed by Mrs. Pearson with Stewie in tow. All right, so here the author is describing to us what? What are they describing to us? Come on, think about it. Notice they're using a lot of detail in these paragraphs. So it says, Pastor Williams led the way, followed by the choir, dressed in their flowing scarlet robes, singing, Walking Up the King's Highway, Mama's favorite hymn, thought Sugar. So they're giving us or painting a picture for us so that we can see it in our minds what is happening in the story. They are using very detailed words so that we can see what is happening, right? And notice how each time something is happening, Sugar is always referring back to his mom. He's always saying, oh, Mom would have wanted me to wear this outfit, or Mom would have wanted me to look this nice, or she would have picked out these clothes. And then he hears them singing a song, and he was like, oh, that's Mama's favorite hymn. A hymn, right here, a hymn is a song, a type of song, a church song, okay? Why do you think Sugar continues to say this is what she would have wanted?
Because his mother is dead.
Yes, you are absolutely right. So Sugar, we figured it out that his mom is not there because she is no longer living, okay? So each time something is happening, he's reminded of his mom, okay? Says, then came, so after the pastor walks into the church and after the choir walks into the church, then came the church members singing along with the choir. Then notice how they describe what the girls are wearing. They're using a lot of detail here. Girls in starched ruffled frocks with socks and Sunday shoes, and boys in pressed pants and shirts and freshly shined shoes march proudly with their parents. That's a lot of detail. They're telling us what they're wearing specifically and whom they're with. Then it says, bringing up the rear was Mr. Pearson and the trustee board members, followed by Mrs. Pearson with Stewie in tow. So we have new characters that are introduced to us. Mr. and Mrs. Pearson and Stewie, which I would think is probably their son. Okay. Let's see. Alexa, can you read paragraph 18 for me? Then I want Yennefer, I want you to read paragraph 19. Let's see, Jonathan, I want you to read paragraph 20, and then we're gonna stop there. All right? So Alexa 18, Yennefer 19, Jonathan 20. All right, Alexa, whenever you are ready, and I'll help you.
Sugar noticed Uncle Free was lagging behind, limping along slowly but looking good in his new store-bought clothes, in spite of his bent body. Uncle Free ain't no swamp rat, he thought, no matter what Steven Pearson say.
Very good. Yennefer?
Sugar watched the last of the congregation enter the church before he shot out from under the willow branches and raced up the path. He rushed past his uncle, around toward the front of the church where the stained glass window should have been.
Okay. Jonathan, thank you. Impulsively.
Sugar reached down and grabbed a rock. His new shoes pinched, but he barely noticed. He thrust back his hand and aimed at the center of the window.
Very good. So what is Sugar trying to do right here? What is he doing?
He is trying, he is
At
going to
center
break
of
the window.
the window.
Yes, he is trying to break the window. Very good. So what
And he
again,
was
it says impulsively. That's a key word. That's another vocabulary word right there. Impulsively, Sugar reached down and grabbed a rock. What does impulsively mean?
Doing something without
thinking about the consequences.
Yes, y'all are both correct. Remember, impulsively means when you do something without thinking. You do it without thinking about the consequences that could happen after you do it. So remember, we saw the picture of the little girl cutting her hair. What would be the consequence for that? If she were to, or her parents were to find out she's cutting her hair, what could be a consequence?
He will get grounded.
She could have gotten grounded. So here we have Sugar who wants to throw this rock at the window, and he does it impulsively. Why do you think he wants to do that? What do you think he's feeling at that moment?
Upset, sad.
Okay, yeah, so sad, upset. So he wants to express his anger or him being sad or upset by throwing that rock and breaking that window. Why is he feeling this way? Why do you think Sugar is feeling upset or sad? Lady?
Because he broke someone's window?
Well, he didn't break it yet. He wanted to break it. Remember,
He is thinking of his mother.
Right.
Say that again.
He's thinking of his mother.
He could be thinking of his mother. So if you look, notice how they talked about how earlier in the paragraph, they talked about how all the girls and boys were marching proudly into the church with their parents, right? And here Sugar's going to the church and he does not have his mother there. So he could be having a feeling of being jealous. He could have a feeling of being very sad and upset because here all these kids are going into the ceremony with their parents and he does not have his mom there with him, okay? All right, Delina, I want you to read paragraphs 21. Stephanie, I want you to read paragraphs 22. Jareth, 23. So Delina, 21. Stephanie, 22. Jareth, 23. Got it? All right, go ahead,
Yes.
Delina.
Then abruptly, Sugar dropped the rock. He spun around and almost crashed into Uncle Free, who had run after him, bad leg and all. Uncle Free grabbed Sugar with his good arm.
It was Mama. Sugar sobbed, pressing his face against Uncle Free's shoulder. I wanted to break that plain glass window, but Mama wouldn't let me do it.
Good. Jareth, where are you? Saw him. All right, I'm gonna come back to you, Jareth. Shema,
Yeah.
can you read paragraph 23 for me, please?
Uncle Free held the trembling boy close. That don't surprise me, son, Uncle Free said. I told you she just might want you to go to the dedication, not to wreck the church, even a plain grass one.
Very good, thank you. So here in the midst of Sugar feeling upset and almost throwing the rock into the window, he drops the rock abruptly. Abruptly means suddenly, okay? So very quickly. And he spun around and almost crashed into Uncle Free. And Uncle Free ran after him. And then notice it says, "It was Mama," Sugar sobbed, pressing his face against Uncle Free's shoulder. "I wanted to break that plain glass window, but Mama wouldn't let me do it." What do you think is happening here? We know his mom is not living, but what do you think? Why do you think he said those words?
Because he misses his mom.
He misses his mom and he knows his mom. And he could be thinking, Mama would not want me to do this. So thinking about her made him realize this is something she would not want me to do. So he abruptly dropped the rock. Okay. And then we notice that as he drops it, he turns and is embraced by his uncle. Notice the picture here. And here we have Uncle Free trying to console Sugar, make him feel better, and let him know everything is okay, right? Okay, let's keep on going. Lady, can you read paragraph 24? And Stephen, you're gonna read paragraph 25, okay? And let's see, Christopher, you're gonna read paragraph 26. So 24, Lady, 25 as Stephen, and then we have paragraph 26, Christopher. All right, Lady, you ready? Don't be shy. Are you gonna be shy today? Thank you, Delina, for explaining that to everyone. Abruptly equals quickly. I see that in the group chat. Very nice, ma'am. Thank you. All right, I'm gonna pick somebody else. Let's see. Stephen, you can go ahead on.
But Uncle Freed, I don't want to
Oh,
go
wait.
to the.
Hold on, sweetie. So you're gonna start at 24.
Okay.
Go ahead, sweetheart. When
Uncle,
you're ready.
Uncle Freed pull in
Handkerchief.
handkerchief from his pocket and wiped Sugar's face. I see you didn't a good job washing up, but now your face all stained with tears, said Uncle Freed, examining Sugar. New clothes fit nice, look good too. Let's go out on our inside.
Keep going.
But Uncle Freed, I don't want to go to the dedication. Can we just go back home? Sugar, please.
Nice. Christopher.
Number 26.
Yep.
Uncle Free gently, firmly grabbed Sugar's arm and led him down
Toward.
him toward the front door to the church. Sometimes we gotta do things we don't wanna do. James Earl. This here's one of them times. There was no arguing with Uncle Free when he spoke in that tone of voice.
All right. So here, Uncle Free is talking to Sugar and trying to console him and make him feel better. And Sugar's like, he doesn't want to go to the dedication. Can we just go back home? But as Sugar's trying to get him to go back home, Uncle Free gently but firmly grabbed Sugar's arm and led him towards the front door to the church. So would you say Uncle Free is trying to get him to go inside? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. And then notice this part right here says, sometimes we got to do things we don't want to do, James Earl. Can anybody identify with that? That's something that my parents used to tell me all the time growing up. Whenever I didn't want to go somewhere, if I didn't want to do something, they'd always say, well, sometimes we just got to do things we don't want to do. So I know some of us have can relate to that. Because I remember when I was younger and my mom wanted me to go to a family member's birthday, and I really didn't want to go to this birthday party. I was like, please, please, can we just stay home? I would say, oh, I don't feel good. And they're like, oh, no, you feel fine. And then they'd always say, sometimes in life, you're going to have to do things that you don't want to do. Has anybody else felt that way before? Or has anybody else's parents ever said something like that to them?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's very true. A lot of us can relate to that because we've had to go through things like that as well and do things that we don't want to do. Like sometimes you might have some work that you don't want to do, but you know you have to do that work. Why?
Because it's important.
Because it is something that is important. Okay? So I think that is a very, very true statement. And I know a lot of us can relate to that. But notice what he said this time. It says, sometimes we got to do things we don't want to do, James Earl. Who is James Earl?
Sugar.
Yes. Sugar is James Earl. But so Sugar is his what?
Real full name?
His nickname.
Oh, nickname.
Yes. So Sugar is his nickname, but his real name is James Earl.
So I've been fooled all this time.
Yes, Shema, you've been fooled the whole time. His real name is not Sugar. His real name is James Earl.
Wow.
They tricked us. They tricked us, guys. Uh-huh.
Very interesting.
Right. All right, we're almost done. Let's keep it going. Thank you. So it says, Sugar and Uncle Free entered through the heavy oak doors that framed the entrance to the new Sweet Tea Church. The choir and congregation were harmonizing on the last stanza of great day, the righteous marching, great day. Pastor Wilson looked up from the freshly varnished pulpit and saw Free McBride and Sugar standing behind the last pew. He beckoned them to come down front. Sugar, staring at the black curtain in front of the window, was frozen in his spot. Uncle Free squeezed Sugar's arm and nudged him to move, but Sugar resisted and tried to pull away. Uncle Free bent down and whispered, James Earl, we going to the front of the church. I know you don't wanna, but you ain't got no choice. There was no breaking away from Uncle Free. Together they made their way down the aisle. Swamp rats, hissed Stewie, wedged between his mama and daddy. Hush, boy. Mr. Pearson's voice was as sharp as a viper's tongue. Uncle Free pressed his fingers around Sugar's arm. Ignore that, son, he whispered. Sugar didn't turn around. He kept walking as if in a trance. What does that word mean, trance?
It's if you're in some deep spell.
Like you're under a spell, right? Like you're so focused, nothing around you can mess with you, right? It's a dream-like state. Good job. So as he's going down the aisle in the church to the front, he is in a trance, trying to stay focused on going to the front and not worry about anything around him. Now look here, we have the little boy Stewie again, but notice what it says. It says, swamp rats, hissed Stewie. Why do you think what does swamp rats mean, or what do you think swamp rats mean?
I think Stewie meant that swamp rats means that someone that lives near a swamp.
Yeah, so he's referring to someone that lives in a swamp. But
James
notice,
Earl.
Mean.
which is James Earl and his uncle, Uncle Free. So I heard somebody say they said that to be mean. You are right. He did say that to be mean to them.
To bully.
Yes, so that was him trying to bully Sugar. Okay. It says, so as they're going down the aisle, Sugar's trying not to focus on them. It says there were 2 empty chairs in the front row where the deacon sat. Pastor Williams gestured them to the seats of honor. Sugar didn't feel like being honored. All he wanted was to escape back to Uncle Free's shack in the swamp. Stewie's right, Sugar thought. I'm a swamp rat. I don't deserve to be in a fancy church like this. Maybe when Mama was alive, but no more. It don't matter that I'm wearing nice new clothes. I'm nothing but a swamp rat like Uncle Free. So how did Stewie calling him a swamp rat how did that make Sugar feel?
As if Stewie was right.
I believe what Stewie said.
Yes, y'all are correct. So he believed what Stewie was saying. He thought Stewie was right, that he didn't feel worthy to be in that really, really nice church in his new clothes, being honored. Now, we don't know why they're being honored yet, but the church has created this dedication for them, and him and his uncle are being honored. They're the special guest in this ceremony. We're going to find that out later on. But yes, Sugar thought that Stewie was right. He was a swamp rat. He didn't deserve to be there. Why do you think he felt this way? Why did he agree with Stewie?
Because since he lived in a swamp,
He
had to wear
feel
other
upset
clothes
right
when he
at
was in
that
the swamp.
moment.
He thought he didn't deserve the nice clothes that his uncle got him.
Nice. He thought he didn't deserve it. All right. That's a good job, Caduce. All right, so we're going to stop right there and paragraph 35. Now I'm going to show you. So remember what we said right there. We're going to stop there. I'm going to highlight it to remember.
Yo quiero saber qué hizo con mi dinero.
Oh, put your stuff on mute, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Usa una de las mías, fat boy.
Raj, I need to say something.
Yeah,
Okay.
fat boy.
Go on mute.
Mommy.
No.
All right, so what you're gonna do today is you're going to actually go into Pearson, and I've already created a discussion board over this, okay? So,
check my video.
I know, I see it. So when you go into Pearson today, you will see it says check for understanding from Mama's window. Okay. So if I click here, let me go back. What you're going to be doing inside the discussion board is you have 6 questions. Okay. And all of these questions can be found in the paragraphs that we read today. So you can do this throughout the weekend. It'll be due on Sunday. So I'm giving you today, Saturday, and Sunday to work on it, because we're going to discuss the questions when we come back on Monday.
There's 2 segments.
So when you post a comment, make sure your comment is answering the question, okay?
Okay.
If you're unable to do it online, you can definitely do it in a notebook. All right, put your stuff on mute. Thank you. So everybody can hear me. They can't hear me when you're not on mute. All right, so make sure that you're answering these 6 questions today. So what are the questions? Well, question number 1 says, what are the elements from the story that give you a clue you are reading a realistic fiction? Remember, we talked earlier about the realistic fiction. A realistic fiction is a story that is made up, but it could be true. So what are some things that happened in the story? Or what is one thing that happened in the story that could be true? All right. Number 2, why did Uncle Free want to cut Sugar's hair? So you're gonna use the evidence in the story and explain why did Uncle Free want Sugar's hair cut? Number 3, how did Sugar get to the church dedication? So what was the form of transportation he used to get from the swamp house to the church? Number 4, why did Sugar not want to go to the church dedication? What was making him upset? Number 5,
Because
in paragraph 26, Uncle Free says, sometimes we got to do things we don't want to do. What do you think he meant by that? And number 6, Shima, get on mute, please. And number 6, as Sugar and Uncle Free walked toward the front of the church, Stewie called them swamp rats. What do you think he meant by that? Okay. So this is your assignment for today.
Miss, so
You have
where
until
do we do
Sunday.
our assignments? Where do we do our assignments?
You're gonna do it.
Notebook or in chat?
You're gonna do it in here,
Okay.
in the discussion board.
Miss Roach,
Yes.
I'm in, but it says it's still in progress.
Say that again, sweetie. Say that again, Caduce.
I did the assignment, but it says it's still in progress.
All right. Did you press turn in?
I didn't find that button.
Okay.
It only
So
says attach file.
okay. So I'll check to see if it says in progress on my end, because you could have completed it, but it might say something different for your end. So I'll check that. Okay.
I saw it on your computer and it said the same thing.
Okay. So I'll see what's going on. All right.
Okay.
Or Caduce.
it happened to me, Miss Welch. For
Say that
some,
again.
it happens for me, Miss Welch.
In reading or what?
Math, reading, and science.
All right, so we'll double check, but if it does show in progress, don't worry too much about it, because what I'm gonna do anyways is go and look to see your responses, okay? So if I can see your responses, then it'll be complete for me, okay?
Okay, Miss Welch.
So I'm gonna double check on that.
Yeah.
Any other questions on these particular questions?
No.
Yaretsi? I saw your hand was raised. All right, so again, you're going to answer this. It's okay. So you're going to answer these questions on the discussion board. If you are unable to write on the discussion board, you already know what we're doing. You can write it in a notebook and send me a picture. But this is your assignment for today.
Oh,
All right?
okay.
If you go into Pearson, you will see this already up and ready for you. Okay? If you are finished with the assignment early and you want to move forward or go ahead, there is a short quiz that I posted as well. You do not have to do that today, but that is for anybody who finishes early and wants to move forward. For today, the only thing I'm requiring you to work on are these 6 questions from what we just read. Okay? So if you want to move forward, you can go to the quiz, the mini quiz that I've already posted up as well. But if there are no other questions, I'm gonna stop today's meeting, and I'm gonna let you guys go ahead on and complete your work.
Miss Welch, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
The work is for today or is for tomorrow?
What did I just say?
For today.
Okay,
Do today.
not tomorrow, not is for today. So get started on it today. Okay. Yes, Shima.
When did you post it?
Earlier this morning. Well, this morning before the
Watch.
meeting. Shima, you had a question?
Miss Watch.
Yes.
When do we have the meetings of your class or Rockets?
Monday.
Only Mondays?
Mondays, no, Rockets, Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, Fridays.
No Wednesdays?
Wednesdays you are with Miss Yarbo, remember?
It's because in
Yes.
I think in March, I think I only called you in today for the meeting.
No, I saw you earlier this week, Christopher. But you
I
need
think
to
I
make sure
need
you're
to
checking the
meet-
Remind app, okay?
Miss Welch.
Meetings this week.
Miss Welch.
Yes, Delina.
Did you see what I put on the chat box?
Let me scroll. Yes, I did see that. That is close to French, yes. Miguel, you have a question?
So, well, we have to will you send like more questions? Are we gonna do the My View book? Are we gonna work on it? Like,
Say that one more time. Do the what book, sweetie?
Are we gonna finish? Or are we gonna answer the question for Rickshawville?
Yes, I want you guys to continue to read that, but I'm not posting that anytime soon, okay?
Okay.
But for today, I just want you to focus on those 6 questions, all right?
Can we have Zoom meetings on Saturday?
If you want to have one, you want to schedule one, that's fine.
Miss, can I like I'm gonna eat.
All right, guys, well, we're done. So when you leave today, you need to get on Pearson and complete those 6 questions.
Bye.
All right?
I don't know the story.
Make sure that you are sending me your name and Remind app for attendance.
Miss, I don't know the story. I give you my
So
name
I'll
then.
post this video online, Louise. Okay?
Miss Welch. Okay. Miss Welch.
Yes,
Miss Welch.
Shimon number 1. Am I talking to Shimon number 1 or Shimon number 2?
There's 2 of me.
I do see there's 2 of you. You're a twin now.
Yay.
All right, guys. I'll talk to y'all later, okay?
Save the turtles. I sent my name on the Remind app.
Thank you.
Save the turtles.
How to do it?
Remind app.
Bye, Miss Welch.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.